Welcome to our first Revit daily tip. Today we'll be looking at the Revit interface. So first up is the home screen where you can see your recent files, which includes both models and families. You can see options for opening and starting new Revit projects, as well as opening and starting new Revit families. Making my way down, we have recent files again, which is what we're looking at. Out of the stocks, if you're in an office where you're using cloud work shared models, and then my insights, which allows you to see how you're using Revit. If Revit sees that you're clicking too many things on the ribbon or a particular command, it'll try to recommend some shortcuts or other workflows that might be useful. So let me start a new model here, just using our empty template. And you're gonna see how I have my workspace set up. But generally, the Revit interface includes the ribbon at the top here. You have the quick access bar up here. And then you have your project browser, which I've placed on my left here, and the properties, which I've placed on my right. Now, the location of these is totally customizable. If you prefer a larger sort of workspace or canvas that's here in the middle, you can actually drag these off into another screen. And you can see it's pretty easy to move around, right? I can just hover near the top here, and as soon as that blue shows up, it means I'm gonna dock it there. One of the things that sometimes people like to do is taking both and putting them on the same side, potentially top and bottom. Now, my issue with this is that the properties in the project browser are particularly long, especially on a big project. It's going to slow you down quite a bit if you're just trying to scroll up and down to just find views or find the parameters. So my recommendation is sacrifice some workspace, bring it over to the right here. Or if you have a second monitor, you can take both of these and move them over to a separate screen. That's what most people prefer to do, but that I feel like that also slows me down if I'm working. So this is my preferred setup. So mentioned this is our canvas. Each view that you have open will have a set of visibility controls along the bottom here. These little icons that so many times goes unnoticed. You have things like scale, the level of detail, visual style, the sun path, shadows, turning on and off the crop, or actually asking it to crop, and then turning on off the crop. This one here is really useful, and I highly recommend setting up shortcuts for it if you don't have them. This is the temporary hide isolate, right? So for example, if I wanted to focus on just this one element, I can go in here and say isolate element. Everything else goes away. And I don't know if you noticed, but there's also isolate category. So if you're looking at a 3D view and you want to see all the doors, for example, just click on one, click on isolate category, and now you're looking at just doors. But best thing about it is you didn't go through visibility graphics, turning everything else off. This is a quick reset and it goes back to normal. In addition to these little ones here, there's right below it, there's the status bar. So you can see here it's sort of telling me what to do, right? So if I were to start my wall command, it right away tells me the next step is to click to enter wall start point. If I click once, now it's telling me enter wall endpoint. And it also gives you a hint, right? If you press a space bar, it'll flip the orientation. Really key when you're drawing walls to make sure that the exterior side is facing exterior. If I move my way to the right here, there's a dialog here for work sets if you are in a work shared model. There's a dialog here for design options if you're testing those out. And then to the far right, there's these little icons down here that, again, most people don't even know they exist, but they are really useful selection filters. So if you have a file, for example, with a large point cloud link, you may want to have a red X on this to prevent you from accidentally selecting it or doing a pre-selection, which also affects the performance of the model. This one here is typically by default off like this to prevent you from selecting underlay elements. This one here is your pinned elements, which it doesn't have to be off, but it's useful if you're modeling curtain walls. So, in a curtain wall, you have wall panels and mullions, among other things, that are typically pinned. So, if you're just trying to select the overall curtain wall, then you may want to have a red X on this, which means you won't be sidetracked by accidentally selecting the mullions or the panels or the grid lines. This one here is, again, really useful. So if you're do heavy 3D modeling, you want to have this without a red X. It allows you to select the face of elements. So for example, if I have a floor here, and you can see here, as soon as I hover over it, it's pre-selected. Now, if I turn this off and I hover over the middle of it, no pre-selection. So really useful as far as if you're doing some heavy modeling, you want to have this turned on so you can select things by the face. But if you're in a heavy annotation mode, you may want to have that off so that you can focus on selecting things like text and lines, which is all the edges. And then there's additional couple of things, right? If you have background processes or filter, right? If you have a couple of things selected, you can click on this, and it's the equivalent of going to filter up here. So both there. And that about covers the interface. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Got any questions? Head over to bimdad.com and let us know. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. See you in the next one.